before we get to tomorrow night's game, I want to get to the story of the day, which is Raheem Morris in Week 16 saying, we're going to go with the rookie. We're going to give Michael Penix Jr. the start for a 7-7 team that has a shot at the playoffs and bench Kirk Cousins after a dreadful 5 weeks. Ryan, I'll give you the floor first on your 2 cents on that subject.
Yeah, thank you. I've been benched plenty, Rich.
He's got some experience, so you can tell us about it.
Is that not?
I'm going with
not
the
so much the playoffs.
first.
He does have some benching experience, though.
Yeah. So I'll say it sucks, but it had to happen, right? I mean,
It did. You think it did?
It did. I mean, Kirk he hasn't looked like himself the last 4 weeks. It's been pulling on this team. It's a move where they want to try to get into the playoffs, and they see this as the best path forward. You know, from reports of what we've been hearing with Penix in practice and, you know, his arm and the way that he's played, the way that he looks like he's commanding the huddle. They've got so much skill on that team on offense. So for them not to be able to produce, and unfortunately for Kirk to not play very well, he hasn't lived up to his standard. I'm sure that he's accepting of it because of the way he's played the last 4 games.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it had to happen, but it's kind of one of those things. If you remember, he started the season, people were a little in question of what was going on with Kirk and kind of, you know, the first couple games, and then we had their game.
500 yards.
500.
And we even before that game were having that conversation of like, man, he doesn't look himself a little bit, you know, like what happens if this continues? Like, when will you start having these conversations? Because the thing, you know, and we know this from practices, is that a lot of times when you got the starters out there working with the group that's playing in the game, and then you got your backup or your rookie quarterback who's there and he's on scout team or in practice he's throwing routes to guys on air, the teammates, they kind of guys in the locker room know.
They look at each other.
They see it and they go, wow, this kid's talented.
Yeah, I mean, you would hear that all the time, actually, from Patriots in training camp the year that Brady eventually got his start.
And that starts the buzz, right? And the players are talking about it in the building a little bit, like, man, what about this dude? He can throw it. He's throwing to the receiver some. Like, and it's not anything against Kirk. It's just naturally you're always like, whoa, I'd love to try that car, right? That car looks like it could roll. And so I think that you have a little bit of that. And I can remember before the game talking to Zach Robinson, some of the guys of the staff, obviously being with them in L.A., and I was like, man, how impressive is Penix in practice? And he was like, dude, it is. Wow.
Really?
You know, and it was like, you know, obviously Kirk's our guy, but like we're real excited about the future. So now you get to this part of the year and it's dire time. This is like you're looking for anything that can catapult your team. And that whole team's watched this guy practice all season. I think inevitably you're like, you know what? We got to just take a shot and do it.
Raheem Morris spoke to the media, I believe, as you guys were just arriving about a half an hour plus ago. This is what he had to say.
The same way we do with all our decisions. You know, obviously you go in, you evaluate, you talk, you look at the tape, you go through all the process, you go through your next preparation and your daily things that you got to do. Obviously, you know, we got to play better at the position. We want to play better position, and that's what we made the decision to do that last night.
And what was Kirk's reaction and his long-term status with the franchise?
You know, obviously, anytime you take a step down in a demotion or whatever the case may be, it's not going to be met with great, you know, appreciation and all those things. But Kirk was a professional. He's a pro. He's a man. He's a great human. He's a great father. He's a great football player. He's done a lot of great things for us this year. He handled it with class. He's an absolute professional. I can't say enough good things about who the man is and how he is and what it is. But, you know, obviously, there comes with some disappointment when you lose your job.
Again, man, 509 yards, 4 touchdowns the night you were in the building in that overtime win over the Bucs. And then a few weeks later, you could make a case he even had a better game because he was 23 of 29 in Week 8 in Tampa with 4 touchdowns and no interceptions, even though at half the passing yards. That doesn't matter. Who cares? Unreal, this league, man. How things play out.
It's just a constant reminder that it is a performance-based business, and it can happen to a guy like that. This has been a very bad, probably the worst 4-game stretch of his career at the wrong time. But at the end of the day, it's not unfounded. And I think Kirk is a professional. Kirk's got to be disappointed, but he knows that it's not unfounded, and he's not playing up to the standard that he has set his whole career.
And the Giants are coming in. So I understand it's only a 2-win team, but there's some grown-ass men on the defensive side of the ball that Penix is going to have to deal with. But let's just give them the win. We'll just give them a win. The Eagles and the Commanders have part 2 going down for them in D.C. If the Eagles win that game, let's just throw that out there, which is a feasible result, obviously, right? Then the Sunday nighter that NBC just flexed into, Penix at Jaden Daniels, would be for a playoff spot.
Yeah.
So the path is there. I mean, it's very real. The question is how do you think it's going to play out? How real is it?
I think what will be interesting is some of the limitations that obviously showed up early in the season and kind of all year long you're asking for. Kirk Cousins has always been successful in play action and really evolving in that game. You know, why haven't we seen it with Zach Robinson and him? And Zach Robinson comes from Sean McVay and that whole philosophy on offense, right? This is what Michael Penix was amazing at in college. In college, he's one of the highest percentage play action quarterbacks. Like, right, that was what he was. He was great at it. So he's got obviously the arm strength and the ability. Will you start to see some of the under center play action, rollouts, all that become alive in this game? I think it's to me now, Zach Robinson. All right, you've had some things happen throughout the year. You know, obviously Kirk hasn't seemed like his best, but can you unlock really this offense and its potential with all the capabilities that Penix has? I think that's what's going to be exciting to see is it something that maybe not only Penix plays well, but this offense can unlock some of the pieces it has because they've got plenty of skill talent.
Yeah.
I mean, you play action with Bijan, I think that's going to work. Right?
Yeah. He's had an amazing season. He's playing great. You kind of thought you'd see with Zach Robinson coming, like Drake London, some of these guys become like your Cooper Kupp and kind of take on some of those roles, and it just hasn't been the consistency of what you'd want to see. But I think it's going to be interesting to see with Penix is he bring an element that kind of unlocks a part of this offense.
Yeah, and you know, Mooney, another guy that's had a great year, and I think he was stuck in Chicago for a while, so you know, to get here, to have a quarterback that's throwing in the ball, like he's been unlocked a little bit too. So the skill position talent on this team is there. We didn't even mention Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I mean, they have the horses.
Yeah.
The question is, can the rookie I'll give you this stat as well. You know, I've mentioned it a couple times, but I'll say it again. In the history of the NFL, you take a look at rookie quarterbacks who make multiple starts and lead their team to the playoffs after his first start happens in week 10 or later for a team that's at 500 or below. I know that's a very small subset here, okay? That's
Still
never
relevant, though.
It's never happened.
Okay.
They're asking him to do something nobody's ever done. And based also off of the way he was born into the league, I've never seen anything like this. I've been around this thing for 22 years.
I was about to say, how many teams have drafted a guy in the top 10 and then paid a quarterback they already had at the same time?
Right.
I don't know how many times that's been done either. So
It's
crazy.
I don't recall this whole journey from draft night in Detroit in late April to mid-December right now. It's unreal. Can't make it up. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku Channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.